Imagine for a moment that you are at home on a peaceful night, looking out the window. Outside, the world seems vast and full of life, but inside, you feel an emptiness, a kind of silence that weighs on your chest. This feeling, my dear friends, is something many of us know all too well: loneliness. But what does this loneliness really say about us? Does it speak more about our lack of company, or about something deeper, something that is rooted within us? Loneliness is not just a state of being alone. It's a silent cry for connection, for understanding who we really are when no one is looking. It challenges us to look inside ourselves, to confront our fears, our hopes and dreams. And although it may seem scary, there's beauty in it, an opportunity to discover the richness that resides in our own company. So let's embark on this journey of self-discovery together and see what loneliness can truly reveal to us. Loneliness is a universal feeling experienced by people of all ages, cultures, and walks of life. But what does it really mean to be alone? And more importantly, what does this loneliness tell us about ourselves? When we talk about loneliness, we often associate it with the physical absence of other people. However, the true essence of loneliness goes far beyond the simple lack of company. It touches on something deeper, more intrinsic to the human condition. Loneliness is a complex sensation, an emotional state that involves a feeling of isolation, a disconnection not just with the people around us, but with the world in general, and more significantly, with ourselves. It's common to confuse loneliness with being alone. But being alone is a physical situation, while loneliness is emotional. You can be surrounded by people and still feel profoundly alone. This is because loneliness speaks to the quality of our connections, not their quantity. It confronts us with the reality that, despite physical proximity or the number of contacts in our social networks, something essential is missing: a genuine, meaningful, and deep connection. Therefore, loneliness can be seen as a signal, an indicator that our emotional and spiritual needs are not being met. It calls attention to our thirst for authentic relationships, where we feel seen, heard, and valued for who we truly are. This feeling, though painful, carries within it the potential for powerful personal growth. It pushes us to seek a deeper understanding of ourselves, to develop a more profound and compassionate relationship with our own being. Loneliness also reflects our innate desire for belonging. Since the dawn of humanity, seeking connection with others has been a matter of survival. However, in modern society, with its emphasis on independence and individualism, we often find ourselves displaced, struggling to find our place in a world that seems increasingly disconnected. In light of this, loneliness can transform into a journey of self-discovery. It invites us to dive into the depths of our soul, to question our beliefs, values, and the true desires that guide our lives. This process, though challenging, is incredibly enriching. As we face our loneliness, we have the opportunity to redefine our relationships with others, and more importantly, with ourselves. Loneliness, therefore, is not a verdict of our social or emotional condition, but an invitation to an inner journey. It challenges us to find contentment and fulfillment within our own company, to cultivate a rich inner life, and to build more authentic and meaningful connections. By doing so, we discover that loneliness is not the end, but the beginning of a profound process of self-discovery and human connection. Loneliness reveals us to ourselves. It shows us our vulnerabilities and strengths, our fears and hopes. And by embracing this feeling, instead of running from it, we open the doors to a richer, more connected, and paradoxically, less lonely life. Loneliness, then, transforms from a source of pain to one of power. The power to know oneself, to love oneself, and ultimately, to connect with the world in a deeper and more meaningful way. As we dive into the vast sea of loneliness, it's essential to recognize the currents that pull us into its depths. Loneliness, as personal as it is universal, is rooted in a variety of causes, some evident, others hidden in the shadows of our everyday lives. Let's explore together some of the common causes that weave the fabric of loneliness into our lives. Firstly, the digital age has brought with it a profound irony. While we are more connected than ever, the quality of our connections often leaves much to be desired. Social networks, with their showcases of seemingly perfect lives, can leave us feeling like outsiders, amplifying feelings of isolation and inadequacy. The paradoxical connected loneliness becomes fertile ground for discontent, where the quantity of interactions outweighs quality, leaving us starving for authentic connections. Significant life changes, such as the loss of a loved one, moving to a new city or job, or even transitioning to a new life stage, can trigger feelings of loneliness. These events often break the ties that keep us anchored, casting us into uncertain seas where loneliness awaits. The pain of loss, the uncertainty of the new, the nostalgia for the familiar, all are gateways to loneliness. Another deep cause of loneliness is disconnection with oneself. In a world that values constant doing over being, many of us have lost touch with our inner selves. We neglect our needs, desires, and dreams in favor of external expectations, creating a vacuum that no number of superficial relationships can fill. Loneliness then becomes a mirror, reflecting the distance between who we are and who we believe we should be. Moreover, the stigma around loneliness often prevents us from seeking help or sharing our feelings. We live in a society that celebrates independence and sees the need for connection as a weakness, making it harder to admit and address our loneliness. This silence around loneliness only exacerbates the problem, encouraging a cycle of isolation and suffering. Loneliness can also be exacerbated by mental health issues, such as depression and anxiety, which can both cause and be consequences of isolation. These mental health challenges create invisible barriers that hinder social interaction, deepening the well of loneliness. Furthermore, the diversity of identities and experiences also influences how we experience loneliness. Elderly people, minorities, LGBTQIA+ individuals, among others, may face unique forms of isolation due to social barriers, discrimination, or lack of representation and support in their communities. Loneliness, then, is not just personal, but also deeply rooted in broader social and cultural issues. Understanding these causes offers us a map to navigate the waters of loneliness. By recognizing the multiple factors that contribute to the feeling of isolation, we can begin to seek solutions, to build bridges of understanding and empathy, both for ourselves and for others. The journey through loneliness is not one we should undertake alone. It's a shared journey, a call to connection and mutual care. Loneliness, with all its complex causes, invites us to look more closely at our lives, our communities, and our world. It challenges us to question, to grow, and ultimately, to find ways to reweave the fabric of human connection. By addressing the causes of our loneliness, we open the door to a future where no one has to navigate the turbulent waters of isolation alone. In our journey through the labyrinth of loneliness, we reach a crucial turning point, where the path turns inward, guiding us to the discovery of the inner self. This is sacred territory, often overlooked in the hustle and bustle of daily life. But it is here, in the quietude of loneliness, that we can find the answers we seek about who we are and the purpose of our existence. Loneliness, often seen as a state to be avoided, carries within it an invitation to introspection and self-knowledge. When we strip away the distractions of the external world and turn inward, we discover an entire universe waiting to be explored. This is the space where our deepest thoughts, feelings, and intuitions reside, where the seeds of personal growth are sown. By embracing loneliness, we are gifted with the opportunity to reconnect with our essence, to listen to our inner voice that is so often drowned out by the noise of everyday life. It's a moment of reflection, where we can question our beliefs, values, and the dreams that drive us. Here, away from the expectations and judgments of others, we have the freedom to be truly ourselves, to rediscover our passions, our talents, and perhaps even our destinies. This process of connecting with the inner self is not always easy. It can be a lonely path, filled with challenges and painful discoveries, but it is also a path of immense growth and transformation. As we face our shadows, fears, and insecurities, we have the chance to overcome them, to build a stronger and more compassionate relationship with ourselves. Loneliness then transforms from a state of emptiness to a state of fullness. It teaches us that being alone does not mean being incomplete. On the contrary, it's in loneliness that we can find completeness within ourselves. Learning to be comfortable in one's own company is perhaps one of the most valuable skills we can develop, for it is the foundation upon which all other relationships are built. Furthermore, the connection with the inner self allows us to cultivate an inner peace that is unshakable by external circumstances. This peace is a source of strength and serenity, a beacon that guides us through turbulent times. With this solid foundation, we are more capable of creating authentic and meaningful connections with others, for we recognize that true connection begins within us. Loneliness, therefore, is not just a moment of isolation, but a bridge to self-discovery and self-empowerment. It challenges us to look beyond appearances, to dive deep into the waters of our soul, and to emerge with a deeper understanding of who we are and what we are capable of. Loneliness and the connection with the inner self are inseparable, a dance between being and discovering, between silence and revelation. In this sacred space, we are reminded that each of us is an expanding universe, filled with possibilities, waiting to be explored. Loneliness, then, becomes not a state to be feared, but a path to freedom, an invitation to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. In an increasingly digital world, social networks have emerged as a kind of virtual public square where we share our lives, celebrate achievements, and seek connection. But do these platforms truly bring us closer, or do they only amplify the emptiness of loneliness? Social networks promise to connect us in ways previously unimaginable, transcending geographic and cultural boundaries. And in many respects, they have fulfilled that promise. Families and friends separated by thousands of miles can share moments and maintain bonds. People with niche interests find communities of support and understanding. So far, the balance seems positive. However, the reality is more nuanced. Constant exposure to seemingly perfect lives, endless adventures, and resounding successes can distort our perception of reality, generating a sense of inadequacy and isolation. Social networks, with their engagement metrics and instant validation, can lead to constant comparison, undermining our self-esteem and accentuating loneliness. There's also the issue of quality versus quantity. Social networks may offer us an abundance of connections, but are these connections genuine? The ease with which we can like, share, or follow creates an illusion of closeness that often doesn't translate into deep, meaningful relationships. Superficial screen interaction can mask the absence of real emotional engagement, leaving a void that no amount of followers can fill. Moreover, the anonymity and physical distance provided by social networks can foster an environment of negativity and hostility, exacerbating feelings of isolation and rejection in vulnerable individuals. Cyberbullying and online harassment are grim realities that can have devastating impacts on the mental health of their victims, deepening the spiral of loneliness. However, social networks also offer unique opportunities to combat loneliness if used consciously and intentionally. They can be powerful tools for building and maintaining meaningful relationships, for discovering and engaging in communities that share the same values and interests. The key is to seek authentic connections, to prioritize the quality of interactions over quantity. Moreover, awareness of the effects of social networks on our mental health is crucial, establishing healthy boundaries for their use, practicing authenticity when sharing our own stories, and remembering to nurture our relationships in the physical world are important steps to ensure that social networks are spaces of true connection, not sources of isolation. Thus, the role of social networks in loneliness is dual. They have the potential to both aggravate and alleviate this feeling. The difference lies in how we choose to use them. By approaching social networks with intention, awareness, and a genuine desire to connect, we can transform them from mirrors of our insecurities into bridges to authentic and meaningful relationships. On our journey through the understanding of loneliness, we arrive at an oasis of tranquility, the importance of silence and chosen solitude. In this space, away from the incessant noise and hustle of daily life, we find a refuge, a place of power and renewal. Silence and chosen solitude invite us to pause, to take a deep breath, and to reconnect with what is truly essential. In a world where we are constantly surrounded by stimuli, consciously choosing to step back and seek quietude can be revolutionary. These moments of retreat are not about the absence of sound or company, but about presence, the presence of mind, heart, and spirit. In silence, the internal voices we often ignore, whether out of fear, insecurity, or simple distraction, can finally be heard. It's in silence that we can hear our intuition, that wise and calm voice that guides us on our journey through life. And it's in chosen solitude that we have the freedom to explore these internal messages, to engage with our deepest thoughts and feelings without judgment or haste. This practice is not about isolating oneself from the world, but about building a deeper and more meaningful relationship with oneself. It's an act of self-love and self-care, recognizing that to nurture healthy and authentic relationships with others, we must first be at peace with our own being. Silence and solitude become powerful tools for self-knowledge and personal growth. Moreover, chosen solitude allows us to appreciate the beauty and richness of life from a new perspective. When we disconnect from external noise, we can find beauty in simple things, in nature, art, and even in everyday tasks. This renewed appreciation for life can inspire us to live more consciously and present, valuing every moment and every connection. The practice of silence and chosen solitude also has profound spiritual implications. Many spiritual and religious traditions value retreat and meditation as means of connection with the divine, whether that divine is interpreted as an external force or as the deepest essence of our own being. In these moments of quietude, we can feel a sense of oneness and interconnection with all that exists, a reminder that, even in our deepest loneliness, we are never truly alone. Silence and chosen solitude are gifts we offer ourselves, an opportunity to slow down, reflect, and recharge. They challenge us to face our fears and insecurities, to embrace our true essence, and to grow in ways we never imagined possible. By making this conscious choice, we can transform loneliness from a state of emptiness into a space of fullness, where silence speaks volumes and solitude becomes a traveling companion, guiding us in our quest for meaning, purpose, and true connection. As we navigate the often turbulent waters of loneliness, we discover that it can be a beacon guiding us to a deeper understanding of empathy and human connection. This chapter of our journey is not just about facing loneliness. It's about transforming loneliness into a bridge that connects us to ourselves and others in a more authentic and meaningful way. The experience of loneliness, though challenging, offers us a unique insight into the human condition. It leads us to confront our own vulnerabilities, fears, and deepest desires. In this process of introspection, we begin to recognize that these feelings are not exclusively ours. They are shared by all human beings. This realization is the first step toward empathy, the ability to feel with others, to understand their experiences and emotions from their perspective. When we emerge from loneliness with a greater understanding of ourselves, we are better equipped to appreciate the struggles and joys of others. Loneliness, thus, transforms from a state of isolation into a state of deep connection. It teaches us that, beneath our superficial differences, we share a common humanity, an inherent vulnerability that unites us. Moreover, loneliness as a path to empathy empowers us to build more authentic and meaningful connections. By approaching others with an open heart, willing to listen and share without judgment, we create safe spaces where true relationships can flourish. These connections are not based on superficialities, but on a mutual understanding and respect for the depths of the human experience. This process of transforming loneliness into empathy and connection also has the power to heal. By recognizing and embracing our own loneliness, and by reaching out to others in their moments of isolation, we break cycles of loneliness and disconnection. Empathy becomes a healing force, not just for ourselves, but for our community and society as a whole. Furthermore, by cultivating empathy and seeking authentic connections, we also strengthen our ability to contribute positively to the world around us. Empathy inspires us to act with compassion and to make choices that consider the well-being of others, creating a web of support and mutual care. Therefore, loneliness need not be a dead end, a condition from which we must flee at all costs. Instead, it can be a valuable path to the discovery of empathy and the deepening of our human connections. By embracing loneliness, we allow it to transform us, to teach us, and to guide us toward a life richer in understanding, compassion, and community. The journey through loneliness to empathy and connection is one of the most profound we can undertake. It challenges us to look beyond ourselves, to recognize the shared beauty and pain in the human experience, and to respond with an open heart. Thus, loneliness reveals itself not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to grow, to love, and to connect in ways that enrich not just our lives, but the lives of everyone around us. Now that we've explored the depths of loneliness and discovered how it can be a path to empathy, connection, and self-knowledge, I invite you to take the next step. Look within yourself. Recognize the beauty and strength that reside in your loneliness. Use it not as a barrier, but as a bridge to connect more deeply with others and with yourself. Start small. Reach out to someone who may be feeling isolated, share your story, or simply dedicate a moment of your day to being present with yourself. Remember, each gesture of understanding and connection can transform not just your life, but also the lives of those around you. Let's together create a wave of empathy and compassion, showing that, even in the moments of greatest loneliness, we are never truly alone. Make this commitment to yourself today and see how the world around you begins to change. I hope this message has been helpful to you. Don't forget to like and share this video. See you in the next video. Goodbye.